Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, feeling well, having yourselves a fantastic start to your Thursday and a great week out there so far. Got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today, and we'll talk about the smoke, where it could be the worst today or throughout the day, and we'll talk about some areas that could run the risk for some strong to severe storms, some flooding risk out there for certain areas of the country. Kind of the same general flow theme out there, but of course, these features have shifted, whether they have shifted west or east, and we'll talk about that in this video. And then stay tuned tonight. The goal was to make a video last night, but there was just so many differences with the model guidance that I just thought that I should hold off, and I really think tonight we'll be able to discuss this in great detail, and I'll try to explain it the best way I can on what's driving kind of an unusual severe weather threat for next week, and we need to really figure this one out because it definitely is unusual. It's kind of a really late season severe weather threat that could potentially unfold across portions of southern regions of the country. So we'll break that down. We'll give you an update on the tropics too, because there is an area in the Western Caribbean that I'm definitely watching. But if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Hopefully, my power will not go off in the middle of the video. Over the last few days, we've had these weird power surges where we'll lose power. And thankfully, this has not happened during making the video because that would be extremely frustrating if I got 20 minutes into a video and it happened. So let's hope it does not happen. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's take a look at what's going on. And I don't have my cursor up this morning. I'm not going to bother with it this morning. But if you see this area of more kind of dull colors, the gray right into here, that is dry air pushing down along a frontal boundary, basically an upper trough with a low pressure up here, basically a trough of low pressure. It's lower heights. And normally with lower heights, you got some kind of cooler, more stable air. Sometimes you got a storm system along the boundary of more moist and dry, stable air, which is the boundaries kind of right into here, right? And that is the case. You know, we were waking up to some beneficial rain here in central South Carolina, and we were dealing with that throughout the morning hours. You know me, I wake up about 4 a.m. and I was working out outside, and there was some nice showers just falling outside. It was nice getting some rain from the sky and not my irrigation system. We're kind of waking up to the same deal in areas in the Midwest, and then we have some showers and even storm activity in South Texas going on. We still have this upper low that is trying to make its way north. This will be the mechanism for numerous showers and storms, again, for areas of the northern Rockies. And then we got a flow right here that will spark the chance for strong to severe storms, basically on this back side of this cyclonic flow, if you will, with this kind of stationary frontal boundary in response to this upper troughing right into this region. So a lot of little features going on, interesting for sure. We look at what's falling at the surface, and you can tell there's not a whole lot going on in the actual Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region. And that's because you're directly influenced by this upper troughing, much cooler, stable air. In fact, you got frost advisories right now in areas of the UP and Michigan. It's very chilly, even all the way down to West Virginia. I think I saw someone say it got down below freezing in some of the higher peaks of West Virginia this morning. So pretty wild. You still got these showers rotating around this area of low pressure that's now beginning to weaken somewhat in the northeast. You're dealing with smoke as the sun is coming up, and then an area of shower activity. No, not really any storm activity, but shower activity. Some heavy that's making its way through South Carolina and far southeast North Carolina, area of organized showers and storms and deep in southern portions of Texas, and then still dealing with showers in response to this upper low in areas of the western U.S. You take a look at watches and warnings. You got flood watches that are continuing in Montana, areas of basically the northern half of Idaho, even several counties in northern and northeast Washington state. If you look at this gray color right into here, that is dense fog advisories. And this typically happens along the boundary of a cold front. You're separating moist and dry air, and typically this creates a fog scenario, and that is what's going on. You got some fog ongoing in Tennessee, areas in Kentucky. This blue right here, that is frost advisories. Then in the bright pink, that is red flag warnings where you're getting very, very dry. You really need some rain. And the air quality alerts are in this more actual grayish color right here, dark gray, where we are having issues with the smoke that continue to plague our atmosphere and really hit people hard who are sensitive to all this smoke in the atmosphere. And even some areas that are not sensitive, this is going to affect. But once again, New York City, the southern tier of New York, can name off all these regions, the entire state of Indiana, almost pretty much the entire state of North Carolina, even areas in Oklahoma and Texas. So this is rotating around this broad area of troughing, and the flow is kind of going like this. So we'll talk more on that. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But as far as the Storm Prediction Center today, you got an area of severe thunderstorms we need to watch. These will be different flows, competing flows. There'll be an area of storms moving in from the north, an area of storms moving in more from the south. We'll talk about it here in a second. Strong to severe storms are possible down here in Texas. And then again, just south of this boundary in South Georgia, and then the low country of South Carolina, even areas of northern areas of Florida could experience some strong to severe storms today, with definitely a rocky late afternoon, evening, and portions of the coastal regions of South Carolina yesterday. Could get a lot of storm activity in Miami later this afternoon for sure also. We'll talk about that here in a second. The flash flooding risk, you have a 15% risk in the yellow area of flash flood guidance being met. This goes off numerous factors like elevation, also how much rain have you received already, things like that. And you guys have certainly received a lot of rain. So you're going to, in certain areas, you could see over a half inch of rain to maybe over an inch of rain. So another day comes, and another day of flash flooding risk are there in Montana. Let's take a look at the southeast today. You're dealing with these showers this morning. I think that they're nice to see for sure. A little weak impulse of energy moves through again at the base of this troughing, basically this stalled frontal boundary. Anytime I say troughing, guys, sometimes it's confusing, and I get it. But think of troughing as basically when it digs down, it's lower heights in the atmosphere. So think of it as basically a separation or a boundary or a front that separates dry, more stable air once you get engulfed fully into the troughing, and then warm, moist air. And along the boundary between that warm, moist air and dry, stable air, and just south of that boundary, you typically, or along that boundary, you typically have a flow, some kind of flow aloft, enhanced flow. And sometimes you can get weak pieces of energy that basically around this, I would say, avenue, road network aloft in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And you can have a lift for shower and storm activity. So, and that is the case. The flow is kind of moving through this area of the southeast. So as we get into the evening hours, you have a little weak upper disturbance that kind of moves through, mid to upper level disturbance. And you're going to have some shower and storm activity in southern South Carolina, low country of South Carolina, and then the coastal regions of Georgia. Some strong to potential severe storms are possible in this area. But one area I want to watch for sure is down here near Miami. Storms could get quite numerous later to the overnight hours, could get very, very wet down here. Well, back it up a little bit. You could have an area of showers and storms that move through Arkansas a little bit later this afternoon and this evening. Let's back it up. This starts this afternoon and maybe areas of Missouri, drifts into Arkansas. So certainly could be a stormy late afternoon, evening in northern Arkansas, getting into central Arkansas, and then weakening eventually before getting into southern portions of the state. Closer look at South Florida. And, as early as this morning, you're going to have a lot of shower, even storm activity, numerous downpours ongoing basically from Orlando point south. Anybody could see it. I think as we get into the evening hours or late afternoon, this begins to taper off some. But then as we get after midnight, you could have an enhancement of more heavy rain in and around the Miami area. Okay, we'll watch for a flooding risk with this. But this will last throughout the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. Rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. The National Weather Service is certainly seeing it, calling for over an inch of rain in Miami, maybe an inch and a half. All right, the northeast today, you still have this low pressure. This will be the mechanism for lift for a lot of shower activity. Also some heavy rain with this. Some small hail is possible. When you have this upper trough, this is a lot of cold air aloft. And not just aloft, meaning above our heads, but the surface too is chilly. It's a chilly rain, chilly day in a lot of the Northeast, but there's a lot of cold air aloft, meaning some of these areas in like red and orange and yellow, these could produce small hail. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So don't be surprised if you see some hail fall from the sky in areas of New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. It is definitely possible today, and these will be rotating throughout the day, throughout all those cities. Throughout those states I just mentioned. All the way throughout the late evening hours, and then it'll diminish, and then we'll do it again tomorrow. But you notice the HRR model is trying to say this low pressure is right in here somewhere. This low pressure has went from over here, in general, has moved further west. That means that the flow around this low pressure, rotating around this area, has shifted further over here. So what does that mean? It means that you'll probably get more smoke, more so in western New York State today, maybe Pennsylvania, and let's talk about that. As we are getting into this morning, the smoke is pretty thick in areas of the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. In fact, you look at the satellite right now over the Northeast, the sun is just coming up, so of course we can't fully see what is going on. Let's see if this is an updated version of this. And there it is. There's the latest update. So the sun is fully coming up now on the Northeast. You got a huge cloud bank because of this low pressure. But if you immediately look down here, it looks really hazy as the sun is coming up. So that tells us that there's a lot of smoke that you're waking up to in this region. Probably not quite as thick as it was yesterday afternoon, but you're waking up to smoky conditions. And the latest, HRR model shows that well. But as we move into this afternoon, it'll still be quite smoky in Pennsylvania. But what I really want to watch for is you folks in Buffalo, Erie, getting all the way down into Pittsburgh as the sun is setting later this evening. The smoke could get quite thick. I think it'll be there all day for areas like Washington, D.C., Baltimore. But as we are moving into Friday morning, you could wake up to some thick smoke somewhere in Pennsylvania, really the western half of Pennsylvania. And then we'll watch tomorrow. The smoke isn't looking as bad as maybe it was in yesterday morning's. Well, when I was preparing some information last night and then ended up making a video, the smoke was looking a lot worse for Ohio for Saturday. But the latest run of the HRR model saying that it might not be as bad, but that doesn't mean anything. We got to watch. The south central U.S. today. A little piece of energy moves in, and really what happens with what's going on out there right now will really decide what actually develops later on today. But if there's one area I'm watching, I would watch down here near Temple, College Station. Basically the area between Austin, Houston, and Victoria could see some storm activity. Some of these could be strong to severe, and it could pack a punch, and they'll kind of move through and blast through, and by the time you get to this evening, you're done with them. But you could have some intense storms potentially around the Houston area later this evening. A little bit closer look at this, but let's take a look at everybody else first. We already kind of talked about the storm action in Arkansas that is possible. You could get some shower activity in eastern Kansas, certainly possible, and even some storm activity in southern Louisiana. But we take a closer look at what's going on this morning and then into this afternoon. Here comes these storms. Some could produce large hail. You're definitely going to have big-time thermodynamics in this region, meaning high moisture levels of the surface, high surface temperatures, therefore you get high CAPE levels. And some of these will likely produce some decent-sized hail. I would certainly watch out in these areas. If you live in the LaGrange area, Columbus, Texas area, I can name every small town in Texas in this region, but I would be talking for an hour probably. But just be careful in this region, some strong storms, and I would watch out Houston maybe later this evening. Could get around a strong storm as it moves through. The north central U.S., you got some shower activity this morning, but as we get into the afternoon, it kind of clears out. I would say Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, most of the Ohio Valley, the Midwest will be pretty calm today. But as you make your way further west and you get kind of west of this boundary, right? The cold front or the frontal boundary is right into here. You get more so along this boundary, then you have more lift for thunderstorm development. You have more clashing of different air masses right here. And I would watch for some storm activity in North Dakota. And let's go on and just flip to this view right here. So this is what I want to show you with competing currents. So you have a flow right here being affected by the backside of this flow in the northeast because of this upper level low, this upper trough that's in the northeast. So you got a flow that's pulling all this into this region. This is being affected. That's why you have this organized area of showers and storms, moves out of Canada, and then it blasts through areas basically of central and eastern North Dakota. So I would watch out for some intense storms in this region today. But I mean, heck, if you're down here in South Dakota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, watch out for some storms also. You look over here, guys, we'll back this up. Whole bunch of shower and storm activity gets going in Wyoming, southern Montana, but this is moving from the northeast to, from the southeast to the northwest. So another day of the potential for storms, and there is a marginal risk up here. So it's pretty wild. This area of storms right here and kind of northeast Montana, this is kind of confused. It's like a portion of this storm these storms want to go northwest, and another portion of this want to go southeast. So it's pretty funny how the winds shift right here as far as what's pulling these storms. But definitely the further west you get into Montana, these are definitely going to be moving northwest. But watch out for heavy rain in Montana again. Some storm activity, definitely a difference in currents. And then with tomorrow, we might have more storm activity, more so in South Dakota and Nebraska. We'll talk about that in a later video. But the Rockies, fully influenced by this upper low still down here in the western U.S. And like I said, you're going to get a ton of shower and storm activity in western Montana, pretty much all of Idaho, Oregon, even into areas of Washington State, especially as you get late into the evening, into the overnight hours. Area of light to moderate rain moves through. But certainly, same areas that have been seeing it. Heavy rain areas with heavy rain. Some could actually have a storm. Some just moderate to light rain, but certainly a lot of rain. But rainfall in areas of Montana. A couple inches is possible in some of these areas. Watch out for flooding, especially with these higher terrain right here in western Montana. Idaho also, and then Washington State could get a couple inches of rain too, especially as we get into the later overnight hours. But another area you need to watch for Montana, a couple inches of rain could fall. Flash flooding is a risk. Temperatures today, doesn't take a rocket scientist to see where this boundary is of cooler and then hot summer air. Another cool day in the northeast. You guys just, I guess, will never have to use your AC this summer. But you might hit about 60 degrees in Boston, give or take a few degrees. Chilly in Maine, typical fall. 40s potentially just for highs in Maine. 50s, 60s in some of these valleys. The higher elevations might not get out the 40s in the interior areas of the northeast. A typical kind of spring-like day in the Ohio Valley, even areas of the upper southeast. The mid-Atlantic, 70s, low 80s, low humidity. But once you get south of this boundary, like in South Georgia, South Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, southern sections of Arkansas, and basically anywhere from this little area points west, southwest, and south, you're going to get warm, summer-type warmth, 80s, 90s with higher humidity. This area, lower humidity in the 70s, nice temperatures. Still below average with this consistent troughing out west. No big ridging showing up anywhere anytime soon. Well below average in the desert southwest. I mean, just pretty much below average for everybody out here. So the only area that's, pretty warm, probably above average is the Dakotas, where it's getting all the way into the 80s and 90s. Moving forward, guys, we'll talk about this tonight. Saturday will be a severe weather day for portions of the southern plains, as basically a piece of energy flies through. And this will spark kind of a dry line scenario, separation between dry air and moist air. And this will probably bring what I would think most likely will be a big-time large hail threat. And that's why you already have a hatch risk for significant severe weather. And I can almost guarantee you this is going to probably be for large hail. So big large hail day for Saturday for Dallas, Oklahoma City, surrounding regions. We'll talk about this in the video coming up. But I can tell you, even past Saturday, guys, Saturday's pretty cut and dry. Once you get into Sunday, there's questions. You got a low pressure flying through the base of this upper trough. This turns into a pretty powerful low pressure. This will bring much more beneficial, this will bring beneficial rain to the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Here it comes. We're getting into Sunday. Widespread rain begins to move into the Midwest. And then as we get into the overnight Sunday into Monday, a big heavy rainmaker. We got to watch for a little bit of severe weather. I think this low pressure is too far north. I think all your ingredients for thermodynamic-wise for severe weather is probably too far south. But you're definitely going to have some storms Sunday into Monday. This will bring a big rainmaker also down to the southeast, potentially. And then this low pressure just begins to spin around up here. What does this do for the upper Midwest? It probably brings you guys rain and cooler temperatures. But as we get into Tuesday, there's a lot going on here. Two things. What does this upper level low that gets trapped somewhere over Ontario, somewhere over the upper Midwest, what does it do? How does it factor in with this? It's going to factor in with this down here somewhat. But you also get troughing that sets up down here. And you basically get an avenue for these low pressures to track in general from west to east, somewhere in this region right here. This is going to probably bring heavy rain threats for areas that have not seen a ton of rain. That's the good news, okay? The bad news is, I mean, you got a pretty strong low pressure pretty far south of this time of the year. And, you know, you look at Tuesday. I think Tuesday could bring severe weather somewhere for the southern plains if the GFS is correct. Got a 994 millibar low pressure over land. And then we get into Wednesday, you're probably going to have some kind of low pressure right here near the Mississippi Valley, give or take east or west. There'll probably be some kind of severe weather ongoing here. Even though you just see blobs of green and yellow, this will probably be severe weather. And then, I mean, you get into Thursday, and I would watch for severe weather into the southeast. This is pretty far out. We need to figure this out. We'll talk as detailed as we can on this tonight. We'll talk about the tropics some. The GFS is adamant that we're going to get some kind of tropical system that moves into the Gulf of Mexico here in about 10 days or so. So we'll talk about it all tonight. Stay tuned. Big video. God bless all y'all. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.